Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Be Well, Be Keto. And I just owe you guys a big apology. I have been so busy with my life coach certification, with my job, with life that I ran out of episodes. And so we have not been online for, I think I missed 2 weeks and I'm so sorry. We have another show. It's called High Energy Girl that you can go and check out if that ever happens again, because that is actually beyond the keto diet. It's more than just food. It's all these cool lifestyle practices that you can, add to your repertoire and see if it makes you feel better. And from meditation to energy work to posture alignment. And there's so much more on that show. So head on over and check it out. It's just called High Energy Girl. And that way you can actually have some more cool things to hack your life and to feel better and age stronger. That's my focus. And on today's show, I actually have Ben and Brandon from Keto Farms. And these young men are amazing. They have created some really cool products, but they're young and they have a really great keto story as well. Very new, fresh flavor. And it's super cool because they offered a discount code to the listeners. So if you go onto their website, ketofarms.com, and plug in Be Well, Be Keto, you will receive 10% off your first order. And these guys just talk about, I don't even want to tell you what they say about their personal health story. So let's just go and say hi to Ben and Brandon.
Welcome to the Be Well, Be Keto podcast, where we showcase ordinary people who have achieved extraordinary results. Your host is the high energy girl, health coach, and personal trainer, Tracy Gluhite.
Hey beautiful, my name is Tracy and I'm a health coach and personal trainer and founder of highenergygirl.com. My passion is to help women become high energy, fat burning phenoms without starving to death and spending hours in the gym. So are you exhausted from the crazy holidays and maybe feeling a little bit of fluffy? Well, guess what? You are in luck because I put together a high energy transformation guide and it is completely free. And it's going to help you boost your energy, banish brain fog, build a little muscle, and burn off that belly fat. Okay, so here's what is in the guide. First off, it starts with mindset, because let's face it, your body can do it. It's your mind you have to convince. Next, we have food. There are 3 phases of the food plan to help you heal your body and create a fat-burning machine. It is awesome, trust me. Also, fitness. We have components for both the home and the gym, beginning, intermediate, and advanced, because if you want to age stronger, then you need to move. And lastly, and most important, is self-care, because let's face it, we women are so crazy busy taking care of everybody else, our homes, our jobs, our families, that we don't take time for ourselves. And even on the airplane, the flight attendant says to put your oxygen mask on first. So grab this free guide, 21 days, high energy transformation. Just click on the link below and that will show up in your inbox right away. Have you joined the Facebook group yet? I have a new Facebook group called High Energy Girls. And that is pretty much where I'm hanging out these days. And I would love to have you a part of the group. So head on over to High Energy Girls on Facebook. Hey guys, thanks so much for coming on the show today.
Hey Tracy, how are you?
Great to be here.
I'm happy. The sun is shining finally.
That's great. Yeah, we're looking forward to Saturday night because that means it's going to be shining for an hour later every single day.
Oh, yes.
California just voted to keep it that way, right? Did you know that?
Maybe. I know my girlfriend's from Phoenix, and they don't change, and I think that's a great policy. Because everyone gets so upset for 5 months out of the year. It doesn't seem to make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I think that it was good, it passed, so that. I'm hoping, you know how our state is, but I'm hoping that they keep it that way. So this will be the last time that we have, the darker evenings. So
that would definitely be music to our ears and pretty much everybody we know, we think.
Yeah. We all survived.
Yeah, we'll just tag on with We'll tag on with Arizona, so that'll be cool. Okay, guys, so listen, I know you guys have a story to share. I know each of you probably have your own. So why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about yourselves and, what brought you to keto?
That's right. So, I'll start, and this is Ben. And, there's definitely a story of how Brandon and I met, but, our own personal health journeys, started way before that. So maybe we'll touch on those first. Okay. And, probably similar to each other, the way our health journey started was as a typical, American kid, waking up every day, eating cereal for breakfast, eating a pretty garbage school lunch, and coming home and eating more cereal and maybe some ice cream, maybe having a family dinner and then maybe some more cereal before bedtime at dessert. And so, up until probably, at least personally, until I went to college, I didn't particularly have any focus on health or clean eating or really any sort of understanding of anything like that. And but then I had a fantastic experience in college where I was studying the Japanese language. And as a result, I decided to study abroad in Japan in my junior year of college.
Oh, cool.
And so, it was amazing. And I lived there for 6 months and had chosen to live with a host family as opposed to a dormitory. And so I was living with, a Japanese family and eating with them every single day and truly seeing how they lived their lives. And what I noticed, which was fascinating, was there basically wasn't a single processed food in the household. Everything that was cooked at home and was consumed on a daily basis was pretty much purchased that day from the local market and cooked fresh and ready to eat. And anything that didn't get eaten that day got eaten for breakfast the next morning, just a day later. And what was fascinating to me was, not only that they didn't have any like dry food storage in their kitchens, but the way that I felt after I started eating like that for just a couple months. And that paired with the tremendous amount of walking and sort of low effort physical exercise that I got getting around Tokyo, Japan during my 6 months there, I felt and I looked the best I've ever been in my entire life. And I would say that was my introduction to what I feel so confidently in is clean eating today, unprocessed whole food style eating. And that's really what catapulted my interest in sort of health and wellness and, the power of food to change, everything about, how you feel and live your life. And
awesome.
So
and
yeah.
How old were you then?
I was, so that was 2009 and I was probably 21 years old.
Okay, cool. So that's a nice early start to wellness.
Exactly. Yeah. So I find myself pretty lucky in that experience. And as a result, it kind of catapulted a whole exploration of diet and eating and cooking really and food throughout my 20s. In fact, there was a period in my 20s when I read a book called The China Study. Are you familiar with that book? It's a study based on essentially the different districts within rural China and understanding because they're so isolated from one another, the foods. It's very easy to understand the foods that they have access to versus don't have access to. And so they create their own little sort of perfect case studies, if you will, from like sort of addition or elimination of certain food groups. And that book, now I have a little bit different perspective on it, but that book was all about sort of the elimination of animal products in those diets seem to have a correlation to extremely low incidences of cancer. And so I got super tripped out on that for a little while and became a vegetarian for a year and, ultimately really didn't feel very good after that experience. But again, it was a great experimentation. And, the way I look at that experience and sort of reading that story and understanding that piece of research was it's probably less of like the elimination of the food of the animal products in those diets, but the introduction of all kinds of incredible vegetables and fresh unprocessed foods in their diets. At least that's the perspective that I take, and carry that on. I would say then, the next sort of, most interesting flagpole in my sort of health journey is when I found the ketogenic diet, and that was in late 2006. Introduced, I would say probably almost, in the same month when Dom D'Agostino, the godfather of the keto diet, appeared on Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss podcast at the end of 2016. And I listened to both of those podcasts, and it was perfect timing because, I was eating clean and I was cooking for myself every day, but I still wasn't feeling my best, and particularly in my afternoons after lunch, I was always having just the worst energy crashes, and I'd start my day fantastic. I'd have a couple coffees through the day, and then I'd have lunch, and it wouldn't be, I couldn't do anything in order to save my afternoon. And what I was most interested in from hearing sort of Dom join those two podcasts, above and beyond, the longevity benefits, above and beyond sort of the body recomposition opportunities, was the energy opportunities and the mental clarity and the cognitive benefits that one could experience in the keto diet. And as a result, it really inspired me to try. And so I tried. I went all in. I'm kind of a somewhat obsessive kind of person. If I get interested in something, then I really want to go for it, right? And so, I followed it to the T for about 2 weeks. 2 weeks in, I was feeling the best I'd ever felt in my entire life. I had the most perfect energy from dawn till dusk. I was sleeping the best I'd ever slept. I was starting to look really good. My work was coming around. Everything was perfect. And that was a little over 2 years ago, I guess now, and haven't looked back.
Wait, so was it 2016 or 2006?
16, sorry.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow, you're an early adopter.
Oh, no.
He was early days.
Brandon took out a little piece of paper and put 2016.
Well, here's something interesting. Okay, just total segue. My major in college was international business, and my concentration, like my minor, you have to pick a country, and so it was East Asian studies, and I studied Japanese for 2.5 years. But
Are you kidding?
No, and I totally was going to go to Japan, teach English, be immersed, do exactly what you did, and I just chickened out.
Oh, man. That's exactly what I did too. I studied finance and international business, and instead of a general studies elective, I chose East Asian studies as a sort of a minor focus, which got me out of geology and whatever. Oh, that's so cool to hear.
Yeah, that's hilarious. I was gonna go to Kyoto. What city were you in?
It was just outside of Tokyo, in Kawasaki and Chiba.
Oh, okay. I haven't heard of that. Yeah, I just chickened out and I went to the Greek islands instead.
Oh, no way.
Well, that's not a bad alternative plan.
Yeah, I know, but it would have been cool to follow through with that. I was supposed to go to law school, and I was going to study international law, and met my husband and got married really quickly. So, total change of plans.
That's how life goes. I mean, I was, I studied, same as you, Japanese for 2.5 years, then sort of lived there, was immersed, got really good at the language. And I was super passionate about going back and living and working bilingually. And, the market wasn't very good pretty recently after the financial crash. And so, the jobs are very hard to come by for a non-native Japanese speaker. And so I did actually try to get into the JET program to teach English, and I didn't get accepted actually, which I say now is probably a blessing in disguise, because I was able to start my career, and it's everything that's happened in our lives leads us to where we are today. Very, very similar story to yours.
Oh, that's so funny. There's so many serendipities when I talk to different guests on the show. It's just really fun. So, Brandon, how about you?
Sure. Yeah. So this is Brandon here. So my health journey, there's certainly commonalities with Ben, but also differences. And so, like Ben, I started out eating, kind of the worst imaginable diet in middle school into high school. I can remember getting off the school bus and racing inside to eat a whole tray of bagel bites every single day. If it was kind of a slow day, I might put them in the oven, but most days I couldn't wait for that. I would microwave them. Other days I would come home and have 4 bowls of ice cream alternating between 2 different varieties. So, lived like that for a while, which, is okay in middle school and into high school. And, something kind of happened early high school where I became, I was playing tennis more competitively, and I think I was starting to think about dating or girls, or, wanted to look a little better. And so I started thinking more about my diet, and, my approach to diet at the time was to really cut out a lot of the things that with no other existing knowledge I thought were bad for me, things like sweets, ice cream, but, kind of ironically to where I am today, a lot of, fat-based products, so I never had butter with anything. I would obsess thinking about, am I going to get cheese on the sandwich at the sub shop? Certainly, I went many years without eating a dessert. And with, working out obsessively, playing a lot of tennis, that diet certainly worked well for me. Started college and had a little bit of a hiccup with freshman 15, as they call it. The girl I was dating at the time was a really good cook. We were eating a lot of, pizza at the fraternity house and whatnot. And then about halfway through college, I had an internship where I moved down to Houston. I was kind of away from all the, the hustle and bustle of college life, and was able to refocus on my health. And, there really wasn't anything to do other than go to work and work out each day and meal prep. I didn't know a lot of people down there. And so that was kind of the next leg up of eating very clean. I'd eat, plain oatmeal every morning, with no sugar, maybe just a hint of cinnamon in it. And so then got in really good shape and was able to really, build on those practices once I got out of college, and started working, and really had my system down where I meal prepped every Sunday. I would never take a Sunday off to, sort of go with friends or go out or go to brunch or anything like that. I pretty much slaved in the kitchen all day every Sunday to meal prep so that everything was ready. I would grill, pounds and pounds of salmon, and people would watch this whole process and think I was crazy. But, it really worked for me, and I would kind of get through Friday eating, very clean, very healthy, and then weekends were kind of, all bets are off. But that was okay, and that worked pretty well for me. And I never, the interesting thing is I never really felt like I needed to change my diet. I was happy with the way I looked. And people always used to say, like, wow, you're crazy. You're so disciplined, regimented. I wish I could, be like that with food. How do you do it? And so I kind of just sort of decided I was happy with my eating plan and fitness plan, and sort of went on autopilot for years and years and years. And that kind of led me to when I met Ben at the the previous company we're at, which we can certainly touch on in a little bit. But again, at that company, we had catered lunch every day. And so all these, horrifying foods, as you can imagine, fried chicken sandwiches and all that would be presented to us every day. And yet me and Ben were the people, in the fridge pulling out these giant salads. Ben always had these, maybe a sardine salad or a coconut soup. I would have grilled salmon. And, again, every single person in the lunchroom is looking at us like these 2 crazy people. And so that led to a lot of, discussion between us and, what we were eating. And Ben told me about the ketogenic diet in early 2018 last year. And, everyone in the beginning of the year is always open to making changes, or trying new things. It's a particularly good time for that. And so I said, you know what, why not? I'll try it with you. And, I had started to eat more and more fats. I started to understand that like almonds, almond butter, avocados, those were good, but I never really thought that a full ketogenic diet was something that I needed. But I thought it might be fun to do it with Ben. He certainly seemed very passionate and excited about it. And I figured I had nothing to lose. And so I, kind of went full stop into it. I remember taking all of the granola and all of the cereal that I had in my pantry and stowing it away. And my girlfriend was all upset, but she's like, I'll do it with you. And really started to feel, like many people on the diet, feeling a better energy, more consistent energy. And, I certainly had expectations that those things were going to happen. But the one thing that happened that was really fascinating and what I really take from maybe the biggest benefit that the diet has brought to me is really freeing my dependence on food and a strict eating schedule. And, looking back, I did eat healthy, but I was one of those people that had to eat, on a very regimented schedule. Every 2.5 hours on the dot, I would have to eat. And when I woke up in the morning, the first thing that I thought about, my first goal for the day was to get breakfast as quickly as possible. And I guess looking back on that really, did take a toll on my life. If my family was in town and they wanted to, explore the city, all that had to wait until I got up and figured out how I was going to solve breakfast. And so it created a lot of inconveniences, and I wasn't able to live in the moment as much as I am now through the ketogenic diet, because, when that 2.5 hours hit, if I was out doing something, my mind would immediately turn to that, and it would bring on an anxiety. Or like, we used to joke that if we're going out for the night, I used to pack, Pine bars in my jeans, and eat them at the bar, and people are looking at me like I'm insane. But like, if I didn't have those, I would just have almost like a crippling anxiety. And what would happen with keto, as many people report, is, my hunger went away, and I really learned how to get energy from my own body. And I could kind of live more sort of on my terms and eat when I was truly hungry, or eat when, I really wanted to. It was a special occasion, friends in town were going to a great restaurant. It really allowed me to develop a much more positive and I think healthy relationship with food. And it is interesting because, a lot of people that use the ketogenic diet is very powerful for weight loss and body recomposition, and that's certainly great. But I was certainly one of those people that didn't need it for that, and have found benefits far beyond that. And I think that's, Ben and I both believe that's a part of the diet that, isn't so much talked about currently, but is going to be a big part of, as more people start to understand that the power of keto goes far beyond weight loss, and whether it's better energy or controlling your eating schedule or, curbing appetite and cravings. There's so many benefits, and I feel, very glad that I was able to realize that part of it, and certainly, continue to keep up with my workout regimen, and all of that was made possible in ways that, I never thought was possible without eating, a standard carbohydrate diet. So that's
it's funny that you said that, because there's a lot that you said that I think is funny, but the one thing, like, I was talking to my son on the phone this morning, and he's 25, lives in New York, and he was at work all day and then going to a movie after work. And he's like, I was so stressed because I wasn't sure what I was going to eat and if I was going to have time for dinner. Right. And he was like, I only had about an hour to get across town and, get food and all that. And I was cracking up because I'm thinking, and I'm sure you can relate, like, I never worry about that. Like, I don't ever really feel the need to eat. I mean, I like to eat, but I can go and skip, a meal here and there. It's not a big deal at all. So
yeah, I'll share just a quick anecdote on that. A couple years ago, and it's happened a few times in my life. I've got on these programs where I'm trying to gain, let's say, 10 pounds of muscle mass, and what a lot of the thought leaders and people out there say that you need to do is you cannot miss a meal. You have to eat a very high carb, high protein meal every 2.5 hours. And so during this particular, probably halfway through this regimen, I had to fly out of town for a business trip. And so I actually had, I think it was like a 6:45 a.m. flight, the crack of dawn. And so I packed a Tupperware that had a grilled ribeye steak, a grilled salmon, it had sweet potatoes, it had some rice. And, at 6:45, I'm sitting on the plane and I opened this, and I had just microwaved it before going to the airport. And the smells of this just started hitting, all the people around me. And I just remember the gentleman sitting next to me looking at me like I was insane. I had like a knife in there. I don't know how that got through security. I was carving into a salmon and ribeye just because I was like, I cannot miss a meal. It doesn't matter what my schedule is. Anything to get those calories in. And it just seems so crazy now looking back on it and kind of the practices that I've learned through the ketogenic diet. But, that wasn't that long ago. It was only about 2 years ago I felt that was the path to health and wellness and to hit my health goals. And, I couldn't think more differently now. We sometimes it's 4 p.m. and we've just forgotten to eat because we're busy. And I never would have thought that would be possible without the ketogenic diet.
Yeah, I love those days.
Yeah.
So you just said something.
We haven't eaten yet? That's crazy.
Just forgot.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to say something.
That's my favorite. I love that feeling. Hey, so you said something else that I want to dive deeper into. Okay, so muscle building on the keto diet and with fasting. What's been your experience with that? Because I'm really into strength training and would love to hear your thoughts on that.
Yeah, it's interesting. I certainly think with the ketogenic diet, I definitely, I would say haven't been able to build muscle like I was able to on more, carbohydrate rich diets. But kind of what's happened in parallel with that is my, the importance of that in my life has gone down. I definitely care about that a lot less. And I think in parallel with getting on the ketogenic diet, I found my interest in doing the strength training every day going down. I had a couple injuries, and I kind of got to a point where I said, this doesn't feel great for my body. Mm-hmm. And I started to do a lot more yoga, a lot more surfing, activities that are great for staying in physical shape, but also great for your mental health and mental well-being. And sort of with the stress of starting a business and everything that's going on right now, I've come to appreciate those activities more. So it's almost, I like to match the activities that I'm doing with the ketogenic diet, all based around how I feel and not so much how I look. So I think I look leaner, but I'm also okay with that. And, I like to have days where maybe I just walk, to Ben's house and I walk back, and that's my exercise for the day. And, I thinking more about, is my body going to last me? The strength training really took a toll. I used to work out, in the gym 5 times a week, and I would do every set until failure, and it really takes a toll for a while. And so, it would be interesting. I kind of thought about, could I go back and try and gain 10 pounds of muscle, but do it with, intermittent fasting and do it with a ketogenic diet. And there's certainly, people out there that have had great success with that. But I've, personally found that my fitness goals have changed along with my diet goals and using the diet.
And that's good, because goals are, whatever it is you want to achieve, it's it changes through time. And I think that overtraining is a curse that many people do, because I teach fitness classes and I see people that I don't know, one of my friends, she works out seriously like 2.5 hours a day. I just think it's overtraining. And, lifting 5 days a week isn't necessary in my opinion. I think 2 days is great, So that's a thing. I think people don't let themselves achieve the gains because they don't take the time to rest. So that's totally a good point. Okay, so
well, and just to interject, ultimately what that style of exercise leads to, at least in my own personal life, several times over the course of the last 10 years, is injury. And you can, I was really into circuit training, and my method of circuit training was boxing. basically boxing training sessions. And I was doing that also about 5 times a week. And, I never felt and looked better in my entire life. But, eventually you're doing tons of burpees after, the heaviest interval training you've done in your entire life for 45 minutes. And then all of a sudden your form goes to crap and, you get injured. And unfortunately I suffered from a pretty bad lower back injury through some of that exercise, and put me almost out of commission for the entirety of last year. And honestly though, if it wasn't for following the ketogenic diet during my recovery, I probably would have put on 15, 20 pounds, something like that. But I literally, the way I looked and the way my body composition was through that entire period of, pretty low intensity physical therapy, I pretty much stayed exactly the same, which is a real benefit to my recovery.
Yeah, because it's muscle sparing. So that's probably what helped you, Okay,
Exactly.
So one of you mentioned something about your business. So let's segue over to that. So you guys met at work, you're eating these big salads, you're going keto, and then how did you get to, by the way, I finished my last snack yesterday. It was amazing. So let's tell the listeners all about Keto Farms.
Sure. Yeah. So, and it is a pretty compressed timeline from when we were eating those big salads and early last year. And, I think through that we start as we, if you're doing the diet with somebody, you're naturally going to spend more time with them and, sharing your experiences. And another thing that, Ben and I were both very passionate about is specialty coffee. I'd be in there with my AeroPress, hand grinding beans and, creating the perfect cup of coffee and telling him this is in Ethiopia, this is a Kenya, and the differences. And, and likewise, Ben loved going to Blue Bottle and getting great coffees there. And so kind of our original idea really came from coffee. As I'm sure bulletproof coffee, fat coffee, keto coffee, the idea of putting your coconut butter, MCT oil in coffee is sort of a staple in the diet. Mm-hmm. So that was a very natural thing for me. I said, well, okay, I love coffee and now I'm eating tons of fat. So let's start, experimenting with that. So next thing you know, we're in the break room, with sticks of butter and creating our own keto coffees. And so, kind of had this idea when we thought about, the effort that was involved in this and bulletproof coffee, which kind of started the whole movement. They only had one cafe in the United States at the time. So we started to think it wouldn't be great if you had all of these ingredients kind of right there in a single serve pouch that you could make, on the go in seconds. We were living busy lifestyles and, we would spend 30 minutes in the kitchen preparing these keto coffees every day. And so, that was kind of in the back of our minds, and it kind of led to we were working late one night and just kind of talking about, where our passions lie. And we ended that night with a handshake to work on a product together. And, the keto coffee was something that seemed, both achievable and something that we had deep passion for and something that we felt was kind of missing from the market and something that could really benefit other people in the diet. So it kind of had this great sort of mix of all those motivations. And, really from there, it was going to be just kind of a side project. I'll meet you on Saturday and we'll toy around with a few different coffees and into just an obsession, next thing I preparing a list of 27 different people that supply instant coffee, and let's try every single one of them and find the best instant coffee in the world. And it was really that obsession that kind of is all we could think about, and quickly led to us putting in our notice and leaving our company. And I had been at the company. It was called Soylent. It was actually in the meal replacement space. So it was also an e-commerce food business. I've been there close to 4 years, almost since its founding. Ben had been there about 2 years. And so, it did feel like it was time for something new. But, with that handshake, I'd say maybe 5 weeks later, we had, put in our notice and we were kind of off to the races. So we're, self-funded startup, kind of just using our life savings to get it off the ground. And, keto coffee is what we what we launched with, and then we quickly led to a full portfolio, with our matcha and then ultimately our snacks.
Yeah, and it's important to be clear that our handshake that evening was truly for a hobby type of experience. We both had passion in food and bringing products to life online from an e-commerce perspective, and particularly Amazon as a new and growing channel, and as an opportunity to reach people with exciting products that you may not find in your grocery stores. And so truly we were just going to, nights and weekends, figure out a way to make a product, launch it on Amazon alone, and see what we could do. And we got together that Saturday morning at a local coffee shop called Deus, and 4 hours later we had a rigorous spreadsheet with all this data,
the product roadmap,
all these ideas. And that led to a Sunday afternoon meeting, and a Monday night, and a Tuesday night, and a Wednesday night. And in the office every day, we were working very closely on some big projects at the company. But it's like, every single time we were preparing to go into a meeting, we'd stop by each other's desk beforehand and kind of like, spill out all of the newest ideas and the things we're thinking about that we can't keep our minds off of. And, it's so quick how it accelerated from just that sort of fun exploratory conversation and that handshake to wanting to basically drop everything and sort of leave our cushy jobs and kind of fend for ourselves and figure it out. And so about 5 weeks later we were on the street.
Yeah.
Wow, 5 weeks. That's awesome, you guys. I have to be honest, I'm so jealous. I have wanted to quit my job for so long, and I certainly hope my manager's not listening to this. Seriously, my passion is on helping people be healthier, stronger, fitter, just happier. And, but there's a thing when you have a family and insurance and all that it's just you hold on to it. And, but hopefully one day hopefully someday soon. So good for you. So tell the listeners so you guys started with coffee, you have the snacks. Can you dive deeper into what we talked about on the phone that day as far as your mission and why you guys wanted to do all this?
Totally. I'll try and take that one, and Brandon, of course, jump in. It's interesting, those early days, what we found ourselves doing was basically searching online and getting an understanding of what was out there today. Very, very important to understand, if we were thinking about bringing something to the market, how would it fit in, and would it actually help people? Is there actually a place for it, or are other companies, kind of already solving this problem in a really good way? And what, maybe we'll just stay at our jobs and, go enjoy those products every day. But what we found, and particularly early last year, we're finding most activity in the keto diet space with regards to new companies, new brands, new consumable products. There's a lot of supplements, a ton of supplements. And then, the contrary to that was, the food type items, to us really kind of reflected, really a lot of the same types of foods that led to bad behaviors outside of the ketogenic diet, and just basically replicated to fit the keto macros, using a lot of sweeteners and ultimately a lot of ingredients that we didn't necessarily want to find ourselves consuming on the regular. And so as a result, we looked to basically merge the way we like to eat, which is as fresh as possible. If we can cook it by our own hands, that's the best case scenario. But ultimately, everyone's very busy, particularly these days. And so, we wanted to bring products to the market that were both extremely convenient, but also followed the most clean ingredient philosophy, we could dream up. And as a result, our perspective is as little processing as possible, and no additives, no sweeteners, no fillers, literally nothing extra as possible in any of our food products. Yeah.
That's so important. I'm telling you, like, people don't understand how bad sucralose is for your gut. And I find it in so many products, and it drives me crazy. It's so bad for your gut microbiome. And I know that people become desensitized to this stuff, and they can eat sucralose and they're fine, right? And then all of a sudden, when you eliminate it for 6 months and then you eat it, I'm telling you, you're going to feel the pain.
It's so true. It's so true. And, really, we had a lot of experiences of trying products as well. Buying and trying products, and there were products we said, hey, this fits our macros. This is great. And so we'd have one and be like, that was good. And then we'd have 5 more of whatever that thing was. And all of a sudden we'd have a gut wrenching stomach ache, and, our energy, would be really bad thereafter. And so it was those experiences that kind of, confirmed our hypothesis and our philosophy around sort of an ingredient strategy and clean eating, clean foods in a convenient way. So I know Brandon's thinking about adding something, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, it's fascinating the experience with sweeteners, because you mentioned sucralose, and I think there's a lot of people, especially in the ketogenic community and health-minded community, that would say, yes, okay, well, we know sucralose is bad, but we're not talking about sucralose. We're talking about stevia, monk fruit, these much more benign sweeteners, and there's certainly a case to be said that they are better than sucralose, or certainly the compounds in Diet Coke and whatnot. But what we found is that even those compounds that might not have, direct impact on your gut health can create really nasty side effects, as far as, when you get these products, or let's say you make a whole tray of sweetened fat bombs, they have a nasty habit of just disappearing. You eat the entire thing, and what we started to kind of feel like was, by eating those products, because a lot of times you're eating them because you want to satisfy some craving. I'm craving something sweet. They almost make cravings worse. It's like, as you're eating them, your cravings are getting worse, and you're continuously eating them. And we kind of just knew from our own experience. And next thing you know, you're eating a whole tray of fat bombs, where maybe if you were eating like ice cream or Snickers or something that's actual junk food, you might only have had half the Snickers bar, or like a quarter of the ice cream, because it's bad for you. And it's kind of this strange irony that's like, well, maybe we would have been better off eating actual sugar. And that's something that we kind of knew from our own experience, and led us, as we were kind of solidifying our ingredient stance and sweeteners, to kind of look at the research. And it was fascinating to find that, they've proven this in studies, that when you give your body sweeteners, but you don't necessarily give it the calories or the energy it's expecting. Your body associates, heavily sweetened things with that immediate energy from glucose. And when there's a disconnect, your body will continue to, make you crave that sweet food. It'll make cravings worse, because it's trying to fill that gap. And that's what can lead to a lot of like over consuming and making your cravings worse. And so that's something that, we want to be clear, those products certainly do have a place for people that are coming over to the diet. They're coming from a standard American diet, and they're really trying to define good practices, but it could be too strong of a shift to go from eating, junk food to eating,
sardine salad,
wild salmon and Brussels sprouts. And so they certainly found a place. But, once you do become fat adapted and you are a little bit into the journey, we found that those products, in a lot of ways, held us back and sort of robbed us of the great feelings that the ketogenic diet can offer. And so that was really important to us, to take a stance and say, we're never going to use sweeteners, and we accept that it's very difficult to formulate products, especially, sweet dessert, snackable products, which are in our portfolio, without, sweeteners. But it's something that's been important to us, and certainly resonated with some of our customers and some of the feedback that we're getting thus far.
And I think, honestly, that is a really good point, because I feel like we as a society need to change our palate.
That's such a big thing. I mean, as soon as you start eliminating the sweeteners, you start tasting so much more. And yeah, we're really robbing ourselves of all the flavor and the nuance that Mother Earth truly has to offer, in dulling it down with, a single note sugar or sweetness, or, even ourselves in past lives, the kind of the sriracha phase where, you're putting sriracha on everything, and guess what? You're just making everything taste like sriracha.
Oh, how funny that you said that. That's hilarious.
It's interesting. I mean, Ben and I, we love dark chocolate. Most people think of dark chocolate of 72% or maybe an 80%, and we have sampled many 100% cacao bars, which many people would consider borderline inedible. But what we found is there are companies out there that are, kind of the same way that specialty coffee came to be, realizing that certain origins and growing practices and harvesting practices, within the cacao bean, you can create versions of coffee that are much milder in terms of bitterness, or have much more of a pleasant sweetness, and you can actually design chocolate so that it doesn't even need sweetness, and by eating sweetened chocolate, whether that's by sugar or monk fruit, you really are robbing a lot of the flavors. And it's the same way that, people would walk into Blue Bottle Coffee and would never dream of putting sugar, in a single origin Kenya or Ethiopia coffee. We think it's only a matter of time before people are doing that with, the things we associate as desserts, like a bar of chocolate. And so we think it's a really exciting time that once you kind of take away that requirement of putting sugar, it leads to a lot of creativity and innovation, which we think will be really excited for people that are on a ketogenic diet that obviously don't want to have sugar or ultimately sweeteners as part of their regimen. So we think it's a really exciting time for those products in particular.
Okay, so that leads us to a little recipe. Okay, so tell me, if you had 100% dark chocolate, okay, you had a bar, like, whatever type of a bar, would you just eat it plain, or would you do something with it?
Well, it kind of depends on the mood, and it depends on the specific 100% bar. There is a brand out there. Personally, it's my gold standard. It's called Fruition. They're a very kind of exclusive specialty, chocolatier. We will disclaim and warn everybody that the bars are probably $10 a bar, maybe $11. So it's pretty ridiculous. But that bar is good enough that can be eaten on its own. But then, there's other days where we'll just get, 99% baking chocolate from Whole Foods. And the method there is to basically break little pieces off and dunk it in almond butter.
Oh, that sounds good.
And one other thing to really take it to the next level is coconut butter. What we found, we had an early formulation session, with chocolate, and we found that, coconut butter, which is, largely coconut oil, but also includes, some of the flesh of the coconut meat. And it's very similar nutritionally to coconut oil. It does have a little bit more fiber, and I think 1 more gram of sugar per serving, but it is radically sweeter than coconut oil. It tastes like candy.
The manna, right? Coconut manna?
Exactly, yes. It's one and the same. And
it's hard to believe it's not pure sugar.
You just have to think that they're sneaking something in there. I keep looking for the monk fruit, and it's not there. And so that's one it's very fascinating, and we thought, could be a great tool to sort of formulate around, or certainly, when we are consuming our dessert of the 100% cacao bar, if you take a glob of almond butter along with the coconut butter, it is actually like, a Snickers bar. Yeah. It's a full-on dessert. And so it's a good example that, you just have to be a little bit creative. But there are things out there that give you all of the sweetness right from the earth. And it's more than satisfying. I have that and my cravings are gone. I feel great. Mm-hmm. That's
a great idea.
Yeah.
Oh, that brings us, since you guys are food formulators, okay, so I have another question. Well, first of all, I always make like little I take the coconut manna, put it in a double boiler, and I cook it, melt it down, and then put it in like little muffin tin type, like the little cups, and do like, it's usually just I make them really small. I do like a little half a teaspoon or half a tablespoon in each one, and then chill them and keep them in the fridge. That's like my go-to.
Oh, that sounds amazing. Wow.
Yeah, it's just pure coconut butter, but you just gave me an idea to maybe add some of the chocolate, to it, or even layer it so you have like a little bit of dark chocolate, a little bit of coconut. That'd be good too.
That's right. Yeah, we experimented with, chocolate like coffee was a big passion of ours, and we thought maybe that chocolate would be an early product that we had. Ultimately what we found is, a chocolate business, bravo to Chalk Zero, because the chocolate business is very, very difficult to manage from a supply chain perspective online. Chocolate just melts, 8 months out of the year in transit to people's homes.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult to work with. And, particularly if you're not, if 30% of your formula is not sugar, it's much more likely to melt. And, the ways that we found to make, the chocolate we had available at the time, with some other ingredients work really well is, we experimented with adding ghee, coconut butter, a little bit of heavy cream, and all those things actually really work, but they just turn into a melted mess.
It's a puddle on the countertop, and it's like, there's no way that this would last in an Amazon warehouse in Phoenix in the middle of the summer. Unfortunately, but ghee it really made a special product, and it's not great for stability, but if you are making chocolate at home, and I haven't seen it in a lot of recipes, but I would certainly experiment with ghee as well. It makes a really great texture, and great natural flavor.
And keeping it in the fridge is like the perfect scenario, because you just take a little morsel out at a time, and it's cold, and it's got that perfect texture, and you can really enjoy yourself with that.
I'll have to play with that. What about, there's one more ingredient that I was thinking of and I just lost it. It's cacao butter.
That's right.
Yep. Yeah.
So you want to hear a funny story? So I remember seeing, I thought it was going to be like chocolate. And I remember seeing a recipe in Leanne Vogel's cookbook that had cacao butter. And I thought, I'm going to get some. So I was at either Whole Foods or Sprouts. I can't remember. And I see it on the shelf. And I'm thinking it's going to be kind of like chocolate, like maybe a white chocolate. I have no idea. So I'm in the store. And I'm really bad about this. But I'll taste stuff in the store, because if I love it, then I might buy more, right?
Right.
So I open up this thing of cacao butter, and it's like in these little squares, and I take a bite, and I thought, oh my God, where's the garbage? I've got to spit this out.
Yeah, it's a little bit too raw of a flavor profile. Yeah, we've experimented with it a little bit as well, but, for us, there's no substitute for, the chocolate or the full chocolate experience. I know it can, if you're formulating maybe an ice cream recipe, I think it can give a great kind of texture and note to it, but you really got to be adding a lot of other stuff in your recipe for it to be something yummy at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. So you guys right now, you have the coffee and the tea, and then what is it, 3 snack mixes?
Yep, three delectable flavors of snack mix. We have, and we'll list them in order of performance. So our strawberry Gouda is our latest formula, and what that really inspires and reminds us of is Special K with red berries. When we put a bite of that in our mouth and we close our eyes and we start chewing, we are transported back to our high school days.
Cereal days. I miss those.
The Special K with red berries, and that's because it has these really carefully dehydrated strawberry slices, which is such a special process that we're able to apply to these ingredients, in that it retains 99% of the flavor and the nutrition of the original product. It's not freeze drying, which is what a lot of people are familiar with some of the products that you'll see in the health food stores today with regards to fruits and vegetables that are shelf stable. But it's a slightly different process, which retains more of the flavor and the characteristics of the original ingredient. So you get this really poppy, punchy strawberry experience, but that ultimately is really a low sugar addition to the mix. And then we have a really rich, buttery Gouda cheese in there, similar to what you might experience with the moon cheese. And then really high quality sprouted nuts, so sprouted almonds and sprouted pecans to really complement. And for us, when we're closing our eyes and we're chewing on those ingredients and the entire thing together, those are what really remind us of the cereal flakes. You know,
the carbs.
The carbs. You know, it's the nuts that actually give us that experience. And the whole thing is sprayed with a little MCT oil to help the sea salt stick to everything. And that's it. That's all the ingredients, and they're wonderful.
I just finished. That's the one I had last night. It was amazing.
Oh,
yeah. And then we also have raspberry Gouda, and that's going to give you more of a kind of a tart, tangy flavor profile. You know, the raspberries have this really great complex flavor that works really well. That's also with the Gouda cheese, but instead of sprouted pecans, we have sprouted walnuts in that formula. And then the third flavor, which is more of a savory, even spicy flavor profile, is the tomato pepper jack. And so that has these really great crunchy grape tomato halves, great complex flavor, and those pair with pepper jack cheese, and again the sprouted almonds and walnuts. So it's really nice that it has flavors for every mood and occasion. If you want something sweet, maybe spicy, something kind of in the middle, more of a tangy tart. We find ourselves kind of going between all of them, and it'd be impossible to pick a favorite flavor.
A favorite child.
It'd be like picking a favorite child. We can never do it. People ask us all the time. So, it's been really great. It's something that's so simple. It's hard to believe that it didn't already exist. If you ever think of an idea and then you go on Amazon and you're all deflated because there's 30 people selling exactly what you just thought of. I'd always assumed it'd be kind of like that, but it's something that we really couldn't find a true ketogenic trail mix. Something that wasn't formulated with raisins or M&Ms or everything seemed to be built around these kind of sweet ingredients that really had, or oats, that just really had too much carbohydrates and sugars for people following a ketogenic diet, and really filling a big void for people in the diet, which is clean, convenient snacks. Snacks that are healthy for you, fit your macros, but are also ultra craveable, giving you the same satisfaction to whether you have a sweet craving or something more savory, salty. Those are things that people go through all the time, that people really struggle on the diet, and they may turn to like, oh, I got a flight later today, I'm gonna have to bring a whole bag of raw almonds and just suffer through it.
Yeah.
And and we think that those kind of things, snacking when you're on the go, that should be celebrated. It shouldn't be this horrible thing that you got to suffer through so you can stay on your diet. You should look forward to that, and we can understand why people didn't, because there are so few options out there.
Yeah.
So that's something that's really resonated with people, and certainly filling a gap for people that are living busy, active lifestyles but don't want to compromise their health and nutrition.
Oh, absolutely. So you said a couple times you keep bringing up Amazon. Are these products available on Amazon, or where can people find them?
They're not today. They're exclusively available from our website, ketofarms.com. But we do have a goal to sell on Amazon soon. We can't exactly specify when, but that is part of the future of Keto Farms.
Awesome. So ketofarms.com, and they can just order directly off your website.
That's
and
right.
You guys are in Southern California, right?
We are. We're in Venice Beach, California, on the west side of Los Angeles.
Gosh, I feel so sorry for you. That's such a horrible place,
I mean, somebody's got to do it, so we're happy to raise our hands and suffer through it.
Awesome. Well, I think they're awesome snacks. I loved them. And what I really love is the coffee. I brought it to my office that I only have to go to once a week or once a month. And they always have the K-Cups, and I'm not a fan of K-Cups. So I brought the coffee and just put hot water in it so I could have a good cup of coffee when I went there. And it worked out perfectly.
I mean, we have one of those every single day without fail.
Weekends included.
Weekends included. I mean, it's like, this weekend, I'm traveling to Austin for South by Southwest. And you better believe that I will not leave the house without, a full supply of our snacks and our beverages so that I can wake up every single morning and have that ritual. So we totally understand where you're coming from.
Yeah, totally. That's awesome. Well, Thanks, you guys. Do you have any wisdom you want to leave the audience with?
Wow.
Yeah, I don't
know. Just stay keto. Live the life.
Yeah. Eat clean, stay keto.
Awesome.
Right. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for coming on the show, you guys. I really appreciated hearing your stories, and the snack box was amazing.
Oh, thank you so much. And it's honestly such an honor to join you on your podcast today.
It's our first podcast appearance.
It's our first podcast, so
well, it won't be the last. I am sure of that.
Well, thank you. It was a new and awesome experience. Thanks for being our first.
Oh, cool. I'm honored. Thank you so much, you guys. Thank you guys so much for listening to our great show. These young men are so inspirational to me. Please head on over to ketofarms.com. Use the code BeWellBeKeto so that you can receive 10% off your order. And for complete show notes, head on over to BeWellBeKeto.com. Go out and make it a great day, everyone. This podcast contains the opinion and thoughts of its host and guests. It is intended to provide helpful and informative material on the subjects covered. All statements made on the podcast have not been evaluated by the FDA and are not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease. If the listener requires professional assistance or advice, please contact your personal medical doctor. Both host and guest specifically disclaim any responsibility for any liability, loss, or risk, personal or otherwise, which is incurred as a consequence directly or indirectly of the use and application of any of the contents of these episodes. Like I said, this is my opinion and I could be wrong.